We've seen perhaps the steepest tightening cycle from the Fed in a very long time. We're talking about 150 basis points. Some people saying 200.
Announced cycle.
Announced cycle, yes.
Yeah.
It's difficult to, markets seem very sanguine, relatively speaking. It's difficult to understand whether such tightening would go by with calm in the markets. And
so obviously then it shows that the market doesn't believe that the Fed would be able to walk its talk on the extent of tightening that they have pinned in their projections. But nonetheless, I agree with you that the market's relative resilience in the US and elsewhere is a puzzle. I have my doubts because of the underlying, stock of debt that these economies carry and the combined stagflationary conditions. Although I took note of the fact that that Federal Reserve chairman did say that he would look through supply, the supply impact and focus on inflation management. We will see if they do indeed go through with their planned rate hikes all the way into 2023. That would definitely have an impact on global risk appetite, stock market levels, capital flows into emerging economies, etc. But I have my doubts whether the economic conditions would evolve in such a way that the Fed would be able to carry out its intended rate hikes to the fullest extent that they have told us that they would do so.
Do you think they'll buckle like they have every time there's...
The
only difference now is that inflation is at 8%.
Sorry?
I said the only difference is that inflation at 8%, they may not have the opportunity to buckle.
I wouldn't use the word buckle because obviously all of us have to update our plans based on how the reality evolves. And like we discussed in the case of the crude oil price and the oil price in India, it's a question of what weights you assign to different priorities. And we all know that real life is all about trade-offs. So I think what trade-off that they would consider down the road and which one they would prioritize can change. And that is the reason why I feel they may not be able to or willing to carry out the full extent of rate hikes that they have told us they would do so.
What does India need to be mindful of? I know the comparisons to 2013 and now are much, much more favorable now.
Yeah.
Are we in a position where, we are perhaps able to run a slightly higher current account deficit without a very disruptive turn on the currency markets or otherwise?
I think, again, on balance, my answer is yes. We should be able to manage because should an unpleasant scenario with respect to oil price persistence happen for the year 22-23, then we have to remember that it is a shock that will affect the entire world. And we all know about the vulnerabilities in Europe. Then we have the vulnerabilities of some other emerging economies with respect to food prices, etc. So then what will happen is investors and the market would start to look at relative fundamentals more closely. And there again, I think India stands in good stead. So that sort of gives me the confidence that, yes, definitely compared to 2 months ago or in, let's say, 4 months ago before Omicron, the way we were looking at things, and then we had some relief with the Omicron being somewhat milder, and then suddenly before we could sort of start to line up at the start line for a sprint, then this situation has arisen. But I still think India should be able to weather the storm and the situation better than other emerging economies or even developed economies.